Have you ever brushed off an itch, thinking, it's just dry skin, and gone about your day? Maybe you even gave it a quick scratch, put on some lotion, and never thought about it again. Most of the time, that's harmless. But what if I told you that, in some cases, a persistent itch isn't just skin deep? It's your body waving a bright red flag, trying to warn you about something much more serious? I know it sounds a little dramatic, but over the years I've spoken to many people, especially in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, who learned the hard way that ignoring certain itches can have life-changing consequences. It's not about living in fear, it's about living aware. When we pay attention to what our body is trying to say, we give ourselves the best shot at catching problems early when they're still manageable. So today, I want us to have an honest heart-to-heart conversation about 3 places on the body where an unexplained lingering itch can sometimes signal serious health trouble. These aren't the occasional irritations that disappear after a day or two. I'm talking about itching that hangs around without an obvious cause, resists normal remedies, and quietly chips away at your comfort. And here's the thing. After 60, our bodies tend to be more sensitive to internal changes. Our skin becomes thinner, our immune system a little slower to respond, and underlying health conditions are more likely to appear. That's why the same symptom that might be nothing for a 20-year-old could be a real warning sign for someone in their 70s. Let's start with a spot most people never take seriously: the hands and feet. Imagine this. It's the evening. You're sitting in your favorite chair with the TV on, and out of nowhere, your feet start itching. You scratch, thinking maybe your socks are the problem. You change them. You put on some moisturizer. Yet the itch doesn't fade. The next night, it's the same thing. And the night after that. This isn't just an annoying coincidence. Persistent itching in the hands or feet can sometimes be linked to more than just dry skin or allergies. One hidden culprit is poor blood circulation. As we age, the blood vessels that supply our extremities may not deliver nutrients and oxygen as efficiently as before. That sluggish circulation can leave the skin dry, irritated, and, yes, itchy. But it's not only about dryness. Sometimes the problem runs deeper, and the itch is actually connected to nerve changes. For example, people with diabetes often experience something called diabetic neuropathy. The high blood sugar damages the tiny nerves in the feet and hands, and one of the earliest symptoms isn't pain, it's itching. At first, it feels harmless, but over time, this can progress to numbness, tingling, or even wounds that won't heal. And here's why this matters so much. For someone with diabetes, a small scratch or sore on the foot can spiral into a serious infection if it's not treated quickly. I've seen cases where something that started as a little itch eventually turned into a wound that required hospital care, all because the person thought it was just the weather, or just old age. There's another lesser-known cause that's equally important to talk about: liver health. The liver plays a role in filtering toxins from our blood, but when it's under stress, due to conditions like bile duct blockages or certain liver diseases, it can trigger itching in very specific places, often the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. And here's a detail that might surprise you. People often say the itching feels worse at night. I once spoke with a woman in her late 70s who experienced exactly that. Her hands and feet would tingle and itch every evening. She tried changing soaps, detergents, even her diet. Nothing worked. Eventually, a routine blood test revealed that her liver enzymes were elevated, and further testing found an early-stage bile duct issue. She told me later, "If I hadn't gone to the doctor, I'd still be scratching in my chair every night, completely unaware of what was going on inside my body." This is why I always say, your skin can be like a messenger. It might not tell you exactly what's wrong, but it's letting you know something is worth looking into. And when you're over 60, you can't afford to ignore the messenger. So if you notice persistent itching in your hands or feet, especially if it's happening without any visible rash, blisters, or other obvious skin condition, it's time to take note. Ask yourself, how long has this been happening? Does it feel worse at a certain time of day? Is it accompanied by other symptoms like fatigue, changes in urine color, or unexplained weight changes? You don't need to panic, but you do need to be proactive. Schedule an appointment with your doctor, share these details, and let them run the necessary tests. The earlier you understand the root cause, the sooner you can address it, whether it's a simple change in skincare or something that needs medical attention. Remember, health isn't about ignoring little problems until they become big ones. It's about paying attention to the whispers before they turn into shouts. Your hands and feet may be small parts of your body, but the messages they send can be big, and sometimes they can save your life. Now, let's move from the hands and feet to something you probably wouldn't connect with serious illness right away: your eyes. We've all had itchy eyes at some point, maybe after a walk on a windy day or when spring pollen drifts through the air. Usually, it's nothing that a rinse with cool water or a quick rest won't fix. But when that itch lingers for days or even weeks without any clear reason, no allergies, no infection, it's worth looking deeper. Our eyes are far more than windows to the soul. They're also windows into our health. And here's a fact that surprises many people. Certain liver problems can first show up in the eyes, long before you feel pain anywhere else. Think of your liver as your body's natural cleaning crew. Every single day, it filters your blood, removes toxins, and processes nutrients. But as we age, especially past 60, the liver can become overworked. Years of medications, environmental toxins, poor diet, or even just the natural wear and tear of life can slow it down. When the liver can't keep up, waste products begin to build up in the bloodstream, and your eyes may be one of the first places to feel the effects. One of the early warning signs is persistent itching, often accompanied by dryness or a gritty feeling. It's not the sharp, watery irritation you might get from dust. It's more like a dull, nagging itch that seems to live just beneath the surface of the eye. Sometimes it's worse in the morning. Sometimes it keeps you awake at night. And no matter how many eye drops you use, it never truly goes away. I remember chatting with a retired teacher who had been dealing with this for months. She thought maybe she'd been spending too much time reading or watching TV. Her optometrist didn't see anything alarming during a routine exam, but she trusted her gut and went to her primary doctor. Blood tests showed signs of early liver stress, and she was able to make changes, cutting back on alcohol, adjusting her diet, and getting more regular exercise. That helped her liver recover before things became serious. She told me, if I had ignored it, I would have been in real trouble a year later. There's also a fascinating connection between the eyes and liver health in traditional Chinese medicine. They have a saying, the liver opens into the eyes. In other words, when the liver is struggling, the eyes will often show it. That might be through dryness, blurred vision, or, in this case, persistent itching. Now, here's where things get even more important for seniors. Dry, itchy eyes are often dismissed as just aging. Yes, our tear production slows down as we get older, but that's not the whole story. When you combine reduced tear production with possible internal imbalances, like toxin buildup from a sluggish liver, the problem can become much worse. And here's a practical tip. If you notice the itch is paired with other subtle symptoms, like fatigue, unexplained weight changes, dark urine, or yellowing in the whites of your eyes, it's a sign you should see your doctor immediately. These can all point to liver function issues, some of which are reversible if caught early. It's also worth mentioning that diet plays a bigger role than many people think. Foods high in refined sugar and processed fats put extra strain on the liver over time. On the flip side, foods rich in antioxidants, like leafy greens, berries, and cruciferous vegetables, can help protect and support liver function. If your eyes have been bothering you, consider looking at your meals, not just your medicine cabinet. I know some people might think, well, my eyes have always been a bit sensitive. Why worry now? But that's exactly why awareness matters. If you've had mild eye issues for years, you might not notice when they start to shift into something more serious. By paying attention to changes, like an itch that's stronger, more frequent, or unresponsive to normal care, you give yourself a much better chance at catching a problem before it snowballs. Our eyes are small, delicate organs, but they're loud when they want to be. Persistent itching isn't just a nuisance, it's a message. Sometimes that message is as simple as, you need to blink more. But other times, it's whispering, your liver needs help. The only way to know for sure is to listen, investigate, and act. And remember, the goal here isn't to turn every little symptom into a crisis. It's about being proactive and respectful of the signals our body sends. If you've been living with unexplained itchy eyes, don't just buy another bottle of drops and hope for the best. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing what's really going on. Because if there is an underlying health issue, catching it now could protect not just your vision, but your life. We've talked about the hands, the feet, and the eyes. Now, let's turn to a place that might surprise you even more, the chest area, specifically the breasts. And before you think, that doesn't apply to me, I want to be clear. While breast health is often discussed in the context of women, men can also develop serious breast conditions, including certain cancers. This is a conversation for everyone. Most people think of breast cancer as a lump you can feel, but there's a rare and aggressive form called inflammatory breast cancer that doesn't show up as a typical lump at all. Instead, it often announces itself with changes to the skin, one of the earliest being persistent itching. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of itch you get from a new laundry detergent or a bit of dry skin after a hot shower. This is a deeper, more constant itch that doesn't improve with lotions or creams. And it may come with other subtle changes: redness, swelling, warmth, or skin that starts to look a little like an orange peel. In some cases, there's tenderness or a feeling of heaviness in the breast. I once spoke to a woman in her early 60s who thought the itch she felt under her breast was just from sweat and irritation during a hot summer. She ignored it for weeks, but when the skin started to look different and the discomfort grew worse at night, she went in for a checkup. The diagnosis came back as inflammatory breast cancer. Thankfully, she caught it early enough for treatment to work, but she told me later, "I'll never ignore an itch again." The reason itching can be an early warning sign here is that inflammatory breast cancer affects the lymph vessels in the skin of the breast. Instead of forming a solid lump, it blocks the flow of lymph fluid, leading to swelling and skin changes. Because this type of cancer can progress quickly, sometimes in just weeks, every day counts when it comes to noticing symptoms. And here's the challenge. Many people dismiss breast itching as something minor or embarrassing to mention to a doctor. But your health is never something to be embarrassed about. If you notice an itch that persists for more than a few days, especially if it's paired with skin changes or swelling, that's your cue to take action. The same applies to men. While male breast cancer is rare, it does happen, and because it's less talked about, men are often slower to get checked. Itching, swelling, or changes in skin texture shouldn't be ignored, regardless of gender. It's also worth mentioning that persistent itching in the breast area isn't always cancer. It can also be linked to infections, skin disorders, or even allergic reactions. But here's the thing. You can't tell which it is just by looking. Only a medical evaluation can rule out the more serious possibilities. I like to think of it this way. Your body has an alarm system built in. Sometimes that alarm rings loudly, like sudden chest pain or high fever. Other times, it's quieter, like a persistent itch that seems to have no reason. But no matter how soft the alarm sounds, it's still worth paying attention to. So, what can you do to protect yourself? First, get comfortable doing regular self-checks. This isn't just about feeling for lumps, it's about noticing changes in skin texture, color, and sensation. Second, don't wait for symptoms to settle down on their own if they've been around for more than a week or two without an obvious cause. And third, keep up with routine screenings and mammograms if your doctor recommends them. Early detection is the most powerful tool we have against aggressive cancers. As we wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with this. Our bodies are incredible at sending signals when something's off. The trouble is, we've gotten so used to pushing through discomfort that we sometimes ignore those signals entirely. Whether it's the tingling in your feet, the persistent itch in your eyes, or the change in skin texture on your chest, each of these can be a clue if we're willing to listen. It's not about living in fear of every sensation. It's about respecting your body enough to say, "I hear you, and I'm going to check this out." Because the truth is, early action can be the difference between a simple treatment and a life-altering diagnosis. So, the next time an itch doesn't feel right, don't brush it off. Your health is your most valuable asset, and you're worth the time and attention it takes to protect it. Stay curious about your body, stay proactive about your health, and most importantly, stay hopeful. If you've learned something new today, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Share your experiences. It might just help someone else spot a warning sign in time. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep learning together. Here's to living with awareness, confidence, and good health at any age.